Good afternoon, Karena. How you doing? You are?
I'm very good, Joel.
Good to be sitting with you. You're the Barbican Centre's head of creative collaborations and learning. For those who are wondering who's this young lady sitting on the screen, you've recently programmed Rebel Radio, a series of events across the centre in June, celebrating London's pirate radio story and exploring radio as a space for community, creativity, and subversion. Leave no stone unturned, Karena.
I will
let
try
let
my
the
best.
people watching know what it's all about and what they can expect if they go on the website now. What are they going to find that they're into?
Well, Rebel Radio is really about celebration primarily. I want to, the idea was really about creating a space that celebrated a really important moment in history and living history that changed things radically in terms of how we all listen to radio beyond our own communities, and also put the work that we were making into the mainstream, even though that wasn't the objective. That is the consequent and the impact. So I think it feels like it's a really important thing to celebrate. And actually, there hasn't been there's lots of content around, but there hasn't been a way of bringing things together. And I really wanted to do something that was about grassroots community influence on mainstream culture in a very, very mainstream organization. So my role at the Barbican is a new role. So I'm the first person in it. And it brings together what was four different departments at one point. So it brings together kind of community work, learning work, public programming, archives. So it has really broad reach, and I can work across any art forms I want to. So that's a really great space to be in, to be asked to come in and to challenge the organization, to think about broader audiences, and bringing and the real kind of civic engagement of a big arts institution like that. Now that's kind of my bread and butter really, and it's been what have been doing all my career. So it didn't feel like a radical departure for me. It just felt like actually this is an interesting context to do it in, and how do you make changes in an organization that has had different challenges over the past, and is really in a place where it wants to embrace doing something different. And so that's why I am in, and so Rebel Radio felt to me like an opportunity to do that in a really consolidated way. So I've been doing, we've done lots of different projects over the 2 and a bit years that I've been there. But this project feels kind of, home for me, really. I guess it has a kind of personal resonance as well as an artistic one, and felt like a really important time to contribute to that with the broader season around kind of frequencies and sounds that move us, make us, inspire us. And so, this was really about doing that, and it's really as broad as possible. So I wanted to have things in it that allow people to join in, because it was always about people. It wasn't ever about fancy curators saying this is what you want. It was about people going, this is what I want, and making it happen. What I was saying, yeah. So Rebel Radio really is about doing, community organization, community people making stuff, and also celebrating it with what's out there in the public domain. So it's got screenings. Of course, you have to have parties if you're going to talk about pirate radio. You can't have it without any parties in it. It's got films, it's got talks, it's got opportunities to join in and play music. So and a radio residency, which is at the heart of it. Go on the website. Number one, just go on the website because everything's there. So we have the center of it is a radio residency with that we're doing with Represents Radio, because obviously there are no pirate radios left. However, my argument is that those community radio stations that we have now would not have existed without pirate, and everybody understands and recognizes that, and Represents is a young radio station run by young people for young people, and it's in lots of ways, it has that kind of spirit of entrepreneurship, trying something new. And they totally recognize their connection to pirate radio. And so they were really excited about collaborating with us on thinking about how do you have that intergenerational conversation between the originals and the younger people. So we kicked that off this weekend. So we had the first one on the Saturday, which was actually called The Origins, and had sets from all some real great DJs, from the past, and then conversations with the younger DJs who are coming up now. So Daddy Ernie was kind of our headliner, and that was lovely. He's my generation of pirates, so it's quite nice to hear his dulcet tones. But there was a whole bunch of people, and really kind of thinking about music across that kind of 80s, 90s period. And then there are 4 of those residencies. So then there's the second one is about the genres that came out of pirate, that couldn't have existed without pirate radio, so like grime, etc. And then the next one is about communities, and then the last one is about this younger generation and how they feel about what they're doing. So those happen every weekend over the month. We'll be recording all of those, we'll snip all of those, and they will live in the hub. So we have this kind of space in the foyer, which we're calling the listening hub, which is an opportunity to listen back to anything that's happened during the season. So if you missed on Saturday, you can listen to that in the hub. Also, what is also central in the hub is a new commission of a podcast series, which again, for me, podcast is like community radio in lots of ways, because again, it's what people want to say without kind of having to be filtered through other businesses or editors necessarily. You can kind of put your things out there, and it's a podcast series made by a really experienced journalist, producer, former pirate, DJ, Tayo Papula, and I would say it's like a love letter to pirate, really. So it's all about the history of it, which is again just really nice to hear all of the old heads talking about their kind of crazy adventures up on tower blocks and running from a DTI, and how they made it work, and the kind of inner isms and schisms of it, and what they were trying to achieve. That includes from the original people like Dread Broadcasting Corporation, which of course we've borrowed our name from. Rebel Radio is theirs, that's not ours, that's just us loaning it for a bit. KISS, and it's moved to being legal. LWR, so loads of people, loads of different heads from all the way through, which is really exciting. There's a whole series of talks, which again is talking about who owns archive, like who owns those stories. How can we think about those unofficial archives, which lots of those are in the in the digital space. The film screenings are doing that as well. Like, who owns that story? How can we claim the ownership of that story? How do we make sure that we're framing it in the ways that make sense for us? Because history belongs to those who record it, right? Ultimately. So thinking about that and that challenge, and just really talking about the kind of wider culture and how sound system and pirate are connected to each other, and how parties and rave culture are also connected to all those things. They're all kind of connected and interdependent. So really celebrating that. We were looking for a kind of opportunity as well. For me, I wanted to talk about an opportunity to play, because every single time I spoke about this idea, as I was thinking about it, and then gathering the team around me who would actually kind of realize all that and deliver it, was that every single person I spoke to kept saying, oh yeah, I used to play in a pirate, oh my uncle used to play in a pirate, oh my dad used to do that. So I was like, we have to find an opportunity for people to play, just to play their tunes that they like, to relive their little moments like that. So we've got Sunday Selector, which is every Sunday, which is you can request a show just like pirate. You can request your show, you can talk about why that tune means a lot to you. You can eat some nice dinner on a Sunday, you know, can just chill. So for me, I was like, what's my ideal Sunday? And that was always in my household, music, rice and peas, of course, and then and family, just people hanging out. Yeah. So just how could we create that kind of vibe? So that's what the Sunday Selector is about. And then obviously you mentioned the film Young Soul Rebels, which is really interesting revisiting that film after such a long time, because I think it didn't quite land as it should have at the time, because it was trying to do so many things at the same time. I think it was just, you know, the burden of representation of trying to do everything. You're a black film, you've got to do every single topic. But and obviously it's been read a lot in around as kind of queer content, but actually at the heart of it is about pirate. And re-looking at it again, I was like, oh yeah, of course. Actually, most of it is about them just trying to get their music played, get a show, and it really captures that. I just think like the soundtrack is just brilliant, actually. And I was like, we just need to have this as a playlist because this is a really good soundtrack. And that whole tension of going, there's this huge scene, the community love this music, and it's not on the radio, and them trying to get into mainstream radio, which is exactly the reason why you know, Pirate started. So we wanted to have a film that had maybe not got its due in its time, and ask people to revisit a film that maybe they hadn't seen or they'd heard about vaguely, or and also just to get an insight into the time, because it's made in the time of the time, so it's not a kind of historical nostalgic look. And although there are like about 20 million plot lines in it, pirate is all the way through. So yeah, I feel like it's a really exciting mix of things, and it's an invitation because there's lots of free things in there. It's an invitation for people to just come down and hang out and inhabit the Barbican, and hopefully feel really welcomed into the Barbican and try some stuff out that they maybe didn't know. And it connects to lots of other things that are happening in the building anyway. So there's a brilliant exhibition in the library about Black British music, so that's happening there. There's a VR experience about rave culture if you were a raver. There's that as well, which is very nostalgic and quite weird and trippy and fun. And then there's also the exhibition, which is about Feel the Sound, which is about kind of your own personal sound, soundtrack, sound resonance, and just really interesting about how music and sound makes you feel. So those all kind of speak to each other. So I think it makes for a kind of an interesting and intriguing summer, alongside some brilliant concerts like Rampage and Jeff Mills, who's like, you know, the original with the Mr. 20 million discs playing, you know. So the Barbican can do such an amazing breadth of work and bring in people who are super high profile and do that mix, which I think is really unusual and kind of makes, for me, I think makes it an exciting place to work, to go, you can actually have that reach and go, who would you really like to see in here? And of course, when you go, who would you like to see Rampage in here? You go, yeah, let's make Rampage be here. And they're, you know, and what they're doing is something different than what they would do on the road.
I was going to say as well, you genuinely seem excited about the journey in front of you.
I genuinely am. You know, on Saturday when I came to hear the radio station, because you know what it is that this has been like an idea for such a long time. So it feels like, you know, like when you're waiting for Christmas when you're a little kid and you're like, oh, it's really long, it's really far, it's really far. And so it takes such a long time from an idea. And because I was new in my role, you know, the idea was to bring together a department. I also needed to recruit people. So, you know, this idea has been kind of bobbling away for a really long time, and then gathering the right people. So it feels like a really a kind of full circle moment. You know, I remember on I think my first week at the Barbican, the person who recruited me was just showing me around, and I saw the space where we've put the pop-up radio station, and I looked at it and I was like, oh, you know, we need to do like a tiny desk thing. And that was like an immediate kind of knee-jerk, like, this is what we should do in here. You know, let's have things that are happening in here that people could see that were really cool. And when I saw the radio station in there, I was like, yeah, this is it, actually. This is that idea. In the same way that I was like, you know, my remit is to look at younger audiences, more diverse audiences. I'm like, I want the real range of things that represent us. And I think that's what's really lovely about even listening to the archive stuff and the podcast, was like people talking about, I don't know, DBC or LWR, and saying this is about Black music, but actually Black music covers such a breadth. You know, the idea of being kind of reductionist about Black means only this one thing. Actually, there's an opportunity to go, it's all of these things. They're all Black, and there's such a range and such a breadth that even that feels really expansive, and that's exciting to me. And absolutely, pirate radio definitely feels, I think, for every single person, I think that's the beauty of it. For every single person I've spoken to, and everybody that I think will interact with it, they feel like it's theirs, whatever their background. They're like, no, that's mine. You know, they feel like an allegiance to a particular DJ or allegiance to a particular radio station. And because there's such a proliferation, you know, like in your neighborhood, my neighborhood had at least 4 in my estate. And we all knew who they were, we all knew where they were, but everybody felt like real ownership over that. And I think that's a real skill, because that is that community connection, isn't it? You feel like it's yours, which connects you to other people, and you kind of share that with people, but it still feels like you have ownership, which is quite an unusual experience to have. And I think good art, good connection to community does that. And so that's why I feel like this is working on all of those levels simultaneously, makes it exciting. And for somewhere like the Barbican that hasn't done this kind of thing before, it feels right. So it feels very, you know, and I hope that the same way people felt ownership over their radio station, or feel, hopefully they share some of their memories and thoughts with us, then that will be there too. And one of the things that we're going to do now is also make the listening hub stay for the whole of the summer. So we'll have some other little pop-up events that people should look out for them, that will animate the hub between July and August. And one of those things is about sharing memories with us, because it needs to be documented. We need to have it documented. We need to have those archives exist long after our generation or people that started those things are gone. People need to remember that this was the beginning, because otherwise, you know, history can get rewritten. We know that. We've seen it.
Appreciate you. Is there anything else you want to share with us before we part ways, or we covered it?
No, I think that's the main thing, is just people to come down, and to know that things are still going to be coming up in July, August. So just look out for that, and really come and share your memories, and come and just hang out. And you know, the more people come, and the more people engage with this kind of work, the more we can do. So if you want it, use it. I would always say that. People are always like, oh, this is brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. But tell your mates, come down, check it out. It doesn't even cost anything. Most of it's free. Come and hang out.
All right, just so I'm clear, right? Because I had it that the Rebel radio exhibit itself, programming, was running across June. So you're telling me now that there's an extension? Is that a new development?
Yeah. So all of the things that we've got in the program that you've seen are happening through June.
Yeah.
But the hub, just that hub bit, is going to extend until the end of July and the end of August. So it means that everything that has happened through June will also still be in there. So people will still be able to listen to that. They'll still be able to listen to the podcast, but there'll also be some other little bits which we are planning, some secret pop-up things that will happen. So yeah, so there's a little extension.